Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Laura Iden Gibbons of Dynamic Movement Physical Therapy and Wellness. I have to share a little disclaimer first before we start. This program is not intended to diagnose or treat any illness or injury. It is for educational purposes only. If you choose to try any of these exercises presenting here, do so at your own risk. Please consult your physician before you start any new program. Not every exercise is safe for every person. Please consult your healthcare professional if you have any questions about exercise execution or if any exercise is right for you. You are responsible for yourself. It will not hold Laura Gibbons of Dynamic Movement, Physical Therapy and Wellness, nor Kaitlyn Desider of Motherhood Alchemy liable for any illness or injury. Okay, well, we got that out of the way. All right. Good afternoon again. I'm Laura Gibbons of Dynamic Movement Physical Therapy and Wellness. Our vision is to provide comprehensive, holistic, and personalized physical therapy and wellness. While building relationships with clients, our mission is to empower and educate those at the Jersey Shore through healthy movement patterns, enabling clients to be more active and live a healthier lifestyle. As a healthcare professional, it is my responsibility to share knowledge and educate the community. This is why I'm very excited to share with you this interview of Kaitlyn Desider of Motherhood Alchemy. Welcome, Kaitlyn. I'm so happy to talk with you today. And to start off, so thank you for joining me. To start off, let's tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you came to this work.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and sharing with your community. I'm passionate about the work you do, and I'm happy to share what I do.
Thank you.
I am a mother of 2 little ones. I have a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. I've been practicing Ayurveda and yoga for about 10 years now. And I really dove into formal Ayurvedic learning in the last 3 years. And teaching or learning Ayurveda at the same time as becoming a new mother really ignited my feminism, and really like wanting to help women and especially new mothers, young new mothers, because our society lacks the proper support that we need, and we are the foundations of our society. Like, we create the next generation, we raise them, we are their number one support. So if we take better care of our mothers, we're taking better care of our communities, our neighbors, and our society as a whole. So I really see, like,
I agree completely, and that's also why I started my own business and started to do what I'm doing as well. That's, I think, why we have, such a connection, because I found that I didn't have the support that I needed through the healthcare community after I had my kids as well. I was asking questions and things like that, but I didn't readily find the support, and I had to search it out. So that's why I love talking to someone like you that wants to just educate and help people, help moms on their journey. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I really feel like motherhood self-care, it needs to start as immediate postpartum as possible to have the best benefits, and it will revolutionize the health of our world, just taking care of our mothers.
It's true, because especially, things are at a heightened aspect now. I can't imagine being a relatively newer mom with everything that's pandemic, the extra stress that's going on, and everybody feels isolated, and moms feel isolated as it is. And that's why we have these things like mom tribes. And hundreds of years ago, there was an actual tribe. Like, there was people that helped each other out. Yes. Yeah. And because kind of what it's become, we don't have as much of just a community there for us. So we have to create it. So.
Exactly.
I agree.
And we have to start, like, society change is going to start with us. We
Yes.
have to start with ourselves,
Yes.
and it will just grow from there. Like, our friends will see us taking care of ourselves better. They'll want to know more.
Yeah.
They'll start taking care of themselves, and it'll just, it's a grassroots effort where it has to begin with us.
Yes, and then actually, I mean, if you're taking these practices on, you're also, how you raise your children is completely influenced. I think that's why a lot of us try to educate ourselves and learn more after we become mothers and have families, because we're like, oh my goodness, I am completely educating and influencing the next generation as well.
Right.
So yeah, and if it becomes a way of life, then we can create these next generation that can maybe, you know, have better ways to deal with stress and just healthy living and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we give them a leg up.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
a step ahead than we were.
Yes, exactly. That's great. That's
Mm.
great. Okay, so we can dive into the next part. What exactly is Ayurveda? Sorry, I probably didn't say it the right way.
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda. Yeah.
Ayurveda.
Yeah.
So it is the sister science to yoga. It's over 5,000 years old. It came from, they're sort of like monks. They're called rishis in India, and they meditated and lived their life by these, it's really like a set of rules for lifestyle, diet, our exercise, and it's very connected with nature. It's all in connection with the natural rhythms of the earth and the world around us. So it teaches us to interact with our environments inside and outside of us, and bring everything into balance. It's very much about, if you're too hot, you bring in cold. If it's too wet, you make it more dry. Like balancing. With opposite qualities.
Okay.
And those qualities are based on the 5 elements: ether, air, fire, water, and earth.
Okay.
These elements are inside of us. They're all around us, everything. They're the building blocks of everything in our world. So you learn your personal constitution, which is made up of these 5 elements, and that's called dosha. It's like, if you know a little bit about Ayurveda, you've probably heard about doshas. There's pitta, vata, and kapha, and they are different quantities of each of the 5 elements. And so ether is space, air is movement through space. Then you have fire, which creates transformation. If you have movement, you have friction, it creates heat. And then we have water, which allows for flow. It also, water doesn't actually change anything that it comes in contact with. It just either takes it up, lets it go, or goes around it.
Okay.
And then we have earth, which is our structure. If you were to think of earth inside of your body, could you think of an example of support structure inside of you?
Oh, I mean, like an actual structure, like my spine? Is that what you're
asking?
Yeah. Okay.
Your bones. Yep. Putting you on the spot.
My spine?
Yes. Your bones. They're the most earthy part of us. Yeah. They're made of minerals. They're they provide us with our structure. Yes. So these elements change throughout the day. So the morning is when you're going to have the most water and earth. That's the Kaphic time of day. And then around lunchtime, when the sun is highest in the sky, we have the most fire. Okay. And then as we get closer to the evening and the day is slowing down, we have the most ether and air. That's the Vata time of day. So learning these flows throughout the day, throughout the seasons, they change with their circadian rhythm. The full moon is very Kaphic, water and earth, and then the new moon is very Vata, air and ether. So you can feel those changes within yourself and see them in the world around you. The tides change with the moon, highest tides at the full moon. And you can work with that to bring balance and flow and ease to your life.
Yeah. So you're not fighting. You're not
nature.
Sort of fighting nature or fighting change or what's happening around you or in you and through you.
You're just you learn how to move with it.
Yeah.
And if you find that you are becoming out of balance in one way, then the more you practice what I'm going to share with you, the easier it is for you to come back to your balance. The faster you can notice the imbalance and come back to it. And that is the essence of Ayurveda.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's really, really quite simple once you get past the Indian, like Sanskrit terms and the sorts of things that might scare you off at first. Once you get into once we make it for the modern mother, and not the rishis of 5,000 years ago, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought the first time I learned about Ayurveda. I was like, this just makes sense.
Yeah, I understand, because there's things that I'm learning now about mindfulness and meditation and things like that are tying together things that I've learned over the past year or two. I'm like, this all just makes sense. It all fits together. So that's great. So you have some simple tips for bringing Ayurvedic practices to self-care?
Sure, I do. I'm going to, I can share that later. Yep.
No, you can go. You can talk about whatever you wanted to talk about. That's okay.
So what I'm going to share is so very simple. They are the basics, like the cornerstones of your daily routines. And so they're the cornerstones of your health. Like having these things in line will make finding health and happiness and ease in the rest of your life so much easier. When we root our day in self-care, we're telling ourselves, first and foremost, I matter. I need to take this time for me, and I deserve it.
Yeah.
I am worthy of my time, basically. And as you begin to integrate these things, family life will just meld around them. Like my son is 3 years old and he joins in with me in a lot of it, or I just make our life in this way so that he doesn't even know the difference.
Yeah. It's just his way of life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my husband picks it up, and since he's home now, it's just
part of your routine.
Yeah, it becomes our family routine as much as it is my routine. Which makes it easier for me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it makes it easier for you.
Yeah, I completely know where you're going with that.
Yeah. And the idea is that when routines are done with intention, you know why you're doing them and they have a purpose for you, they become rituals and they become more sacred. And Ayurveda would call that Ojas building. And Ojas is like deep energy, it's vitality, it's your reserves. And as new mothers rushed into life after postpartum, we are often starting at a deficit. We don't have that Ojas anymore because we used it all up in birth. And then we don't have the opportunity to rebuild it before we're thrown into to our life again.
Yeah.
And it really sets us up for struggles down the line. Like we might not even notice it in the first 6 months. And then 6 months comes along and you hit a wall.
Yeah.
And so coming back to these rituals, no matter how far along you are in your postpartum journey, 6 weeks, 6 months, 3 years.
Exactly. Once you're postpartum, you're
through.
always postpartum.
Exactly.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, I treat people that have 10 and 12-year-olds. You had a baby, like you're postpartum.
Right. And you always deserve this care.
Yes.
So here's how a typical morning routine should go.
Okay.
In Ayurvedic terms. Generally you want to wake up around 7 o'clock. By 7 in the morning. Morning is Kaphic time, so it's slow and heavy. It can be wet if you think of dew on the grass or fog in the air before the sun comes up. So you want to wake up as early as possible to reduce having too much sluggishness throughout the rest of your day. And the first thing you do before you change a diaper, before you get anybody breakfast, you want to take care of your most basic, simple needs, brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom. You want to try to have your bowel movement as early as possible in the day. So yesterday's waste is gone. Your digestive system can start fresh today. Brushing teeth, washing your face with cool water. And if you're at a point in time where maybe you can shower in the morning, that's the best time to do it. It doesn't work for everybody depending on your
kids.
Your kids, your help.
Yeah.
So if you can shower, great. If you can't, brush your teeth, wash your face, go to the bathroom before you change a diaper, before you do anything for anybody else. Have those needs, your needs, taken care of. And then as the day moves on, you want to have your biggest meal at noon. So like I said a little earlier, the sun is highest at noon. The fire is hottest in your body at noon, your digestive fire. So they say that it doesn't actually matter so much what you're putting in your body. I mean, it does, but it matters more when you eat. Because if you're eating your biggest, heaviest meal when your digestion is at its highest, you will digest it the best. You'll assimilate and take in those nutrients best. And if you're having your heavier meal at dinner time, you're going to go to bed with that still digesting, and then your body can't do what it needs to do overnight. Which leads me to the evening. It's best to be done eating by sundown.
Oh, wow.
That can seem really hard right now.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, I mean, you can give yourself a little window. You generally want to have about 3 hours to digest your meal before you go to bed.
Yeah.
So if you're shooting to go to bed by 10, which is ideal, because 10 o'clock's like when you will get your second wind and you'll find it harder to fall asleep, and you might like start folding laundry or decide you have some chores to do instead of going to bed. Yeah. So if you get in bed by like 9:30, 10 o'clock, you'll set yourself up for the best night's sleep that you can possibly get.
Yeah. That makes sense. It correlates with everything that I learned back even in school. That, I mean, I don't know the science behind it, but I feel like even when I was in college and playing sports, that they said like the amount of hours that you got like before midnight was important. Like, so it almost like counted more than what's after, but it kind of,
Right.
it's all goes along with that same thing. And then 3 hours to digest meals, that's completely goes along with everything else that I've learned as well with, you know, acidity and things like that. And just
Right.
making sure everything is settled.
Right. And we struggle so much after we have a baby with hormone fluctuation. And the liver is really important in the process of taking out excess hormones in our system. And it's also, it's like the nighttime janitor of our body. Like, it does its best work at night. So when we give ourselves enough time to digest our last meal before we go to bed, then we're taking that excess load off of the liver and allowing it to do the rest of its work overnight, helping us have more balanced hormones.
Yeah.
And so then having less symptoms of PMS or like mood swings and all of that sort of that comes along with out of balance hormones.
That makes sense.
So those are the most basic ways to integrate Ayurvedic practices into your daily life. And it seems they're so very simple.
But it's a lot of stuff that people might not be doing.
Exactly. It's hard to, if you don't, that's why it's done with intention. You now, you understand and can see why you would want to do these things, and then you can bring them into your life.
Yeah, and then it becomes habit. You do it for long enough, it becomes habit, and it just becomes your day of life, your way of life.
Right.
And it becomes your kids' way of life, and everybody, and they're simple enough. But if you're, like you said, if you're working more with the natural flow of what's happening, everything will kind of just flow better.
Right. And I have a couple bonuses that I'd love to share. If you feel like you have space to add something else after trying to bring these, I'd say 3 aspects into your life, you could start lighting a candle with your meals.
Oh.
It's a really nice way to like signal your fire. You're putting your digestive fire out on the table with you.
Okay.
It's also just really nice, like ambiance. I will almost always at this point, I just started this practice in the last like 6 months. I finally got to a point where I could remember and actively do light a candle with every meal that we have.
Yeah.
So it's like a nice little thing for me and my 3-year-old to have the candle lit at the dinner table while we're eating our lunch together.
Yeah.
Makes it more like a romantic lunch date.
Hey, we need that.
Yeah.
These days you need it.
And then possibly one of my favorite Ayurvedic practices is called Abhyanga, and it is self-oil massage.
Oh.
And it's a lovely practice that is made even better if you get to do it before you take a bath. But if you don't have that time, you can just do it before you shower. And it's very grounding if you would start from your head and move down, and you just put some oil. Sesame oil is generally used.
Okay.
You could also use sunflower seed oil. Those are the most common too. You could use coconut oil in the summer if you tend to be very hot.
Okay.
But it can be too cooling and drying for some people. So sticking with the sunflower or sesame is like your best bet.
Okay.
And you just fill your palm, rub your hands together, and start with your face, temples, cheekbones, down the jaw. And then just move down your body, and you do long strokes on the long bones.
Yeah.
And circular motions on the joints, and just head to toe. Belly, you want to move clockwise. That's how our digestion moves.
Yeah.
All the way down to the feet, and moving from the head to toe brings your energy down. It's grounding.
Grounding.
Yeah.
Almost like a cleansing. Like I've learned a bit about just some cleansing practices as well. Like just, it's a similar kind of thing with not even touching yourself. I'm forgetting the name right now. And I've tried it on my husband and myself, and it's along the same principle. So that's, yeah,
it's great. Very nourishing. It feels great. And then if you let the oil soak in for a few minutes while you let the shower get hot, or fill the tub, and then let it move you into like a relaxing bathing time for yourself. I, with my 2 young ones, try to do it like once a week.
Oh, okay.
About once a week in my practice. If you were to read the Ayurvedic texts, they want you to do it every day.
Oh, wow.
But that's where like we need to look at that and say, this is a guide.
Now, you said you do it with them, like you do it to your kids, or you do it yourself?
I also do it with my children.
Okay. They
usually get it after their bath, because giving an oily bath to a baby can be dangerous.
Yeah.
When they were infants, they got the oil before the bath.
Okay.
Because I felt more safe about being able to handle them.
Yeah.
Now that they're on the move themselves, I oil them with sesame oil after their bath.
Okay.
And that's what I do with myself most days of the week. But doing it before the bath is, you let it soak in more. It like, then you cleanse the excess oil off of you, so you're not worried about having oil all over the place.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely practice. And if you want to, you can just Google Ayurvedic oil massage.
Okay.
And you'll find plenty of information out there on it.
Yeah, that sounds definitely something I'll be looking into. I mean, I have to get some sesame oil or sunflower.
They suggest not using the stuff that you would cook with, but if you're in a pinch, you can use.
Oh no, that's
like an unrefined sesame oil from the grocery store.
Yeah.
The most important thing about adding anything new to your routine is making small incremental changes. Like, don't take everything that I've listed here and try and do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to stick. And then you're going to feel frustrated, and it's going to spiral down.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is pick 1 or 2 that you felt most drawn to. Like, I need that most in my life right now.
Yeah.
And start there. And then as you get used to doing that and it becomes ingrained in your daily routine, then you can add something else.
Yeah.
That's why
some people might be doing some of these things almost already. Like they're trying, because they have kids, they probably are trying to eat by, almost around sundown anyway. I'm one of few that we eat at like 6:30, which is just cutting it close to that time. But we eat very late as far as other families are concerned. But that's because we used to be 2 working parents that didn't get home until then, and that's what. But unfortunately, it stayed that way.
You absolutely have to work within like your
what works best for you as family time, and we still want to eat as a family, so that's important to us as well. But like, and exactly what you were saying,
if you find yourself like in that situation where you're 2 working parents, or maybe you're a single mom and you don't get home until later, just make your dinner a lighter meal.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be like your spaghetti and meatballs. it could be a soup, it could be brothy, it could be lighter rice and vegetables. Like, that can be your lightest meal of the day. It should be already.
Anyway. Yeah.
And then it should be easier to cook then, and easier to clean up, and just easier on your evening schedule.
Yeah, I know. I still, even to this day, I kind of dread that time of night. I'm like, oh no, it's after dinner, which means like getting them ready for bed, and their energy is just like all over the house.
Oh yeah. we have a nightly ritual of my 3-year-old just does laps.
Yeah.
He was like, it's just like post-dinner sprint time.
Yeah, that's what, sprint. And now the two are like running after each other, and hopefully not screaming and God only jumping off of things. And
yeah, exactly.
I understand. Yeah. And you even get them out during the day to be like, all right, let's make sure they get their energy out. It doesn't matter.
No.
Like their time that they hit that window, like you're saying 10 o'clock, they hit it earlier.
Yep.
They hit it right after dinner. They're like, okay, it's time to let it all out. So, I understand.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add about the tips and self-care and stuff?
Yeah, just that always remember, it's not about perfection. It's called a practice. Ayurveda is a practice, just like yoga is a practice, anything like that. You may fall off the wagon and you find your way back on as you notice how these practices make you feel, hopefully better. You'll want to find your way back to them sooner. And that's just like, be gentle with yourself, because it's okay.
Be kind, right? That's what we all
exactly.
say to the other. We don't take our own advice. Like, I'm on these text, groups, and you're like, be kind to yourself. And I'm like, you need to take your own advice. You're not being kind at all to yourself. Exactly what you were saying. Like, people find a better time of the day for their movement, for their working out, for, and be kind. If you fall off the wagon with that, be kind to yourself. The same thing. Like, just get back on. Just try to, if you know deep down that you feel better. Like, there's people that fight it, but if you really take a look, with movement, you feel better. With these practices, you feel better. So, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think that's
okay.
Did you have any questions? Did anything come up?
No,
for you?
I talked to you about them as we were doing them. Yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, I'm interested in even diving deeper into the practice of trying to connect to nature and the flow and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
A really easy way to do that is it would be considered like an elements meditation, where you would sit down and think about the qualities that make up each element and find them within you. So if you're sitting and you're thinking about ether, where do you connect with space inside of your body? Where do you connect with air inside of your body? And so on, all the way up to earth. And then feel how connected you feel to each element. Like, could you find air very easily? Were you very drawn to the fire? Like, were you completely disconnected from the earth? And that tells you where you may be out of balance. That can help you see what you might need to be bringing into your life more. I give a quick personal experience about that. I was doing these element meditations frequently and found that I was very disconnected with water. And so I just started adding water back into my life by going to the beach. It was the middle of winter, so I was going to the beach and sitting in my car and just watching the water. Drinking more water. Easy. We're all dehydrated.
I know. I have a whole blog about it. And then I started to tell my clients and my family, I'm like, oh no, you're not drinking enough at all. And I myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like your body is made out 70% of water, and you're dehydrated. I'm not going to say you're killing yourself, but you're neglecting yourself. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you find a hard time connecting with the earth, you can go put your bare feet in the dirt. That's
I do that all the time. I did the grounding, and it's funny. My mom watches my kids, and I mean, my kids hate having socks and shoes on because I've raised them, and they're barefoot most of the time, as I think they should be.
Yeah.
But I've done, a good amount of grounding in myself, just trying to, I'm like, okay, yeah. Most of the time I'm in bare feet as well, other than sneakers, and just try to be connected to the ground, to the earth. I've posted about it, before I go for a run. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here or stand here and ground myself. Yeah, I
That's
agree.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Would you like to end with a meditation?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually going to be a very grounding meditation.
Okay.
We're going to get into our bones. So it's called body mapping. I would call it a body mapping meditation or a bone meditation. And so if you just want to find yourself in a comfortable seated position, you want your feet, if you're in a chair, you want your feet flat on the ground. And just gently close your eyes. Taking a few deep breaths, filling that lower belly, just really relaxing the lower belly as you inhale. You can place your hand there if you need to like really fill in that lower belly as you inhale. And then just slowly exhaling. Allowing the breath to open any areas of tension, breathing in and then exhaling, releasing that tension. And if you need to stretch or move, letting it all out. And then release the breath. Bring your hands to your hip bones. So the front of the hip bones is called the AS bone. And you want your index pointer finger to rest there, the front points. And then just let the thumb rest on the back of the hip bones. Should feel rather comfortable. Relax the shoulders down away from the ears. And then just breathe into this space of the pelvis. And from here, we're going to draw lines in our mind from the front of the hip bones, where your index finger and middle finger are touching your bones, to the wall in front of you. So envision lines being drawn from the front of the hip bones to the wall in front of you. And then back again. You can move with the breath if that is easier for you. Inhale, moving out. Exhale, moving back in. And what we're doing here is we are telling our nervous system, this is where my body is in space and time right now. So now we're going to move from the right hip to the wall to our right. And then back again, moving with the breath, envisioning a line from the right hip bone to the wall to your right, and then back again. And this practice is very calming to the nervous system when we are constantly being pulled out of our bodies Our nervous systems are constantly in a mild state of fight or flight. And this brings you back to, this is my home base. This is where I am in space and time, and I am safe here. So we'll go to the left wall from the left hip. Moving with the breath if that makes it easier for you. And then we're going to move from the back of the pelvis, so just about where your thumbs are, if that gives you a better indication of where your pelvic bones are. From that space to the wall behind you and back. Drawing a line from the back of the pelvis to the wall behind you and back. And then releasing the thought of drawing the lines, coming back to center within your pelvis. You can release your hands if it's more comfortable for you at this point. And we're going to fill the pelvic bowl with our breath, envisioning our inhale swirling, filling the area with love, with energy, with compassion, our creative center, our womb space. Sacred space as mothers. Just breathing love into this space, feeling if there's any tension, exhaling and allowing it to let go. And then just gently deepening your breath, coming back to yourself. You can stretch, move, however it feels comfortable for you as you come back to your body. And gently opening your eyes whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you. It's a really great meditation to bring you into yourself. It relaxes the nervous system. And you can do it on any bone in the body. So you can just sense into yourself and find what feels like it needs your attention. And use that bone, that space to map yourself to whatever room you're in. I really like to do this when I'm laying in bed if I'm having a hard time falling asleep.
Okay.
And it really just like brings me down a few notches and helps me relax. So nervous
definitely,
system.
I was interested in incorporating that because I recently, when I've just had difficulty going to sleep, I've just started connecting to my breath as well, because it's a big part of my physical therapy practice as well, and my own journey that I'm on with that. And then I know just connecting, and I've told anybody literally that's willing to listen about breathing and how it's, if we're using our diaphragm, then we're connecting to our parasympathetic nervous system, and that's the relax and digest. So it's all very similar. And probably everyone around me is like, all right, enough about the breathing. I'm like, well, you're not doing it. Like,
Yeah.
it takes practice. It
absolutely does.
It took me about, I mean, I've been in physical therapy myself for about a year. And I only go like once a month, once every 6 weeks or something like that. But the changes that I've seen in my body are incredible. And it's like my whole shape and structure of my body's changed because I can breathe now. I can breathe through my ribs. So doing this kind of a practice was cool and interesting. And another thing that I'll add to my practice.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's excellent. So thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice. Did you want to say anything else about the teachers you were saying about today? If not, then definitely want to tell everybody about you, about how to find you on your website and social media and all that stuff, and what you're offering right now. So
yeah, thank you. So I am on Instagram and Facebook as Instagram is Motherhood Alchemy.
Okay.
And Facebook is just Motherhood Alchemy. I have a website, motherhoodalchemy.com, and it's a work in progress, but getting there.
We all are.
Yeah. Right now I'm offering personalized postpartum care planning.
Okay.
So it is very geared to, we find your dosha, we see where you are imbalanced and balanced, where you should be, and we plan your postpartum from making sure that all of your daily needs are taken care of, from food to laundry, and like we make sure that all the stuff that you have to worry about is taken care of when you have your baby.
That's awesome.
And I am doing care packages that can be a gift, or you can purchase one for yourself. There's a full package of meals for, mostly it's geared towards the mother, but everyone can partake. And it gives you 3 meals, some snacks, some teas, and I'm also doing tea and cookies, which is smaller. You get 3 teas and a couple snacks.
That's great.
Geared towards mothers within the first 6 weeks of postpartum.
Okay.
And then I'm also working with just generally younger moms who are within the first 5-ish years of postpartum. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I will work with anybody who wants to make themselves healthier and find their balance.
Yeah.
And that I have created that as a 6-week window of time that we work with, private self-care coaching. And it's meant to be like your postpartum window, your 6-week postpartum window. But I meet you where you are at this time in life.
That's great.
We find your dosha, we see where you're in balance, where you're out of balance, and what your goals are. It's completely geared on what you want out of it. And we make it work. We find ways to make it work with your life.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. I mean, because I know not just moms, but everybody can benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
From this practice as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this information. And I loved learning this, and it spurred me to want to learn more about it. So that's great. So I want to thank Kaitlyn for joining me today Again, I'm Laura Gibbons from Dynamic Movement Physical Therapy and Wellness. My website is dynamicmovementpt.com. I'm on Instagram as at Laura Iden, maiden name. And I can be found via that same name, or Dynamic Movement Physical Therapy and Wellness on Facebook as well. So people will be able to find us, and then we'll share this with them. So thank you so much for joining me. And
it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure as well. And I think this could be something that people in both of our circles can benefit from the joint ventures of how this all works together, because we're all trying for very similar things. So I loved it. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Have a great